So today we're doing surface area of a cylinder. Remember last week we touched on surface area of just the regular prisms? And the surface area is just the sum of every external face, the area of all the external faces, and we add them all together. So now we're going to learn what it does when we do it with a cylinder. So a cylinder can be thought of as a circular prism. Now, we don't actually call it a circular prism, but I say it as a descriptor because it's a circle and then just that height of our shape. So it's a prism where the circle is the cross-sectional base. If we want to try and draw the net of a cylinder, so if you want to draw the net of a cylinder, it's going to look something like this. So I'll just draw a normal cylinder to start off with. Okay, so a cylinder will have a radius in its circular cross-section, and it will also have a height. Okay, that's really the only information we are ever told with a cylinder, and it's all we really ever need. Alright, now, if I wanted to be funny, I could point out that it looks like a Monster Energy can, and that Ollie still can't have one.
So I'll go over the screen if you want.
But that's a perfect example of a cylinder shape. You've got your water bottles, you've got soda cans, foam rollers are examples of cylinder shapes as well. And now we want to try and draw a net of that shape. So we're going to draw a rectangle. And then two circles at the top and the bottom. Now let's pretend it's a perfect world and those circles look the same size, but they're not. Each of these circles have that same radius r, and this will still be the height of the prism, but what we need to figure out is this length in here. We need to figure out how long this is going to be. Does anyone know how long this is?
That long, sir.
That long there?
Yeah.
Reuben?
When do you need... I have no idea.
The circumference?
It's equal to the circumference of the circle.
Oh.
Okay? I've pulled up a widget that we can use on Hot Maps to try and describe it a little bit better. So, say we have a cylinder up here, and you've got the two circles, one at the top and one at the bottom, and they each have that area of 201 centimeters squared. Alright? So then the next step is to try and find this area of that curved bit, that part that goes around. And so we can think of it as we're like unfolding a piece of paper.
Oh.
And so the circumference of the circle is this length at the top up there.
Breadth? What's breadth?
Breadth is just what they call for width and height. Like, they just use it because they don't want to use like height for everything. Breadth, let's just ignore it and put height. Okay, so length times height. Circumference of the circle times how tall that is. And so that would be how you figure out that one. And just so we can have an answer for this widget, we'll say that the surface area is that times 2 plus that, which is 1,005. And then always remember the units as well. You've got to put those centimeters squared at the end. Okay, so now we'll go back to our notes. And we can just figure out that that formula is 2 pi r. That length of my curved surface area is 2 pi r. So, we can say that the TSA of a cylinder is equal to, so we've got the 2 circles plus the 1 rectangle. We know that the area of a circle is pi r squared. We've got 2 of them. And so it's going to be 2 pi r squared. And then we just said that the area of a rectangle is length times width. Well, what's the length of my rectangle?
Wait.
No.
Don't confuse me.
The length of the rectangle is that circumference of the circle, so 2 pi r. And then times the height. So I've just gotten this information here from my diagram up there.
Alright. Oh, cause we like do it so they know what you're talking. So they're so smart. You should be like a teacher.
So our final formula is 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h. Now often this will be called the curved surface area. And there will be some problems where they will ask you just to find the curved surface area. So they will say, what is the curved surface area of the cylinder? Where that's just, you just find the bit that goes around and you don't add on the extra areas of the circle. That's a very common question where they try and trip you up on understanding what you're talking about or not. So just keep that in mind. What, sorry? So the curved surface area, so you've got this piece of paper, right? So let's say that had a top and a bottom, so that'd be a cylinder. The curved surface area is this bit, okay? Excluding the faces of the cylinder. Okay. Everyone clear on that part? There's no test this term. The last assessment is the investigation, which is in week 10. Tests, I think, scheduled next week, next term, sorry, week 3 or 4.
Other investigations are easier.
What week is it?
Week 10. You don't need to study, no, but... Pardon?
So we're going to take home section?
I'm not sure yet, dude.
Wait, so how are we supposed to do tests and all that stuff online if school ends up being closed?
I'm not sure what's going to happen, Lara. It's a question that's above my pay grade.
Will be eventually.
Victoria's already been closed.
ScoMo said that it's not closing. Yes.
So what will we do?
8.
They can't close it.
Then it
Then,
will get worse.
no, but if they close it, grandparents won't look after kids.
Guys,
No, it depends.
High school.
Shut up, Lara. You're trying to teach us.
Ollie, not needed.
Sorry, I was helping you.
Alright, so let's find the curved surface area of the cylinder. And just bear with me while I draw a bad cylinder. I don't want that. Oh, whatever. You know what? Could have been worse. So we'll say that the height of the cylinder is 25 meters. And we'll say that the radius is 5 meters. And we want to know the curved surface area of the cylinder. Mark, what do I mean when I say the curved surface area of the cylinder?
The area of the rectangle alone.
Yeah, the area of that rectangle that we can fold out of all of it. So the curved surface area is just equal to 2 pi r times h. 2 pi r being the length of the rectangle and h being the width of the rectangle that forms when we unroll that curved bit. So that's going to be 2 pi times 5 times 25. Does anyone have an answer for me? Get out your handy dandy calculators. Let's start practicing how to put these in our calculators. You're going to know how to do it. 700. So this curved surface area is 785.4. And always remember your units at the end. Meters squared. It is still area, so it is still meters squared. All right. Find the total surface area of the following. Now, bear with me, because this is not going to be the best drawing in the world.
Okay.
Ellie, Hannah, cut it out.
Sorry.
Ellie, remove the pin.
We're playing this thing.
I know, I can see you.
Oh, wow.
And then let's, yeah. And then let's try and draw something like there. You know what? Could have been worse.
Yeah, probably.
For those of you who can understand that, it's half of a cylinder. Okay? Where this length here is 4 centimeters. And this length here is 8 centimeters. Now remember that the total surface area is the sum of all the areas of the external faces of the shape. So total surface area. So it is half of a cylinder. So what we should do is find the surface area of a cylinder and then just divide that by 2. So 2 pi r plus, or 2 pi r squared, sorry, plus 2 pi r h. That's just the formula for the surface area of a cylinder. What is my radius of the cylinder, Edwin? Be careful, because it's not 4. It's 2. This whole length here is 4. We want half of that length. So we want 2 centimeters because it's half of 4. So it's going to be 2 pi times 2 squared plus 2 pi times 2 because that's the radius. And what's the height going to be, Jamie?
8.
Yeah, 8. Okay? And so that's going to get me to 8 pi plus 16 times 2, 32, 32 pi, which equals 40 pi, which is around about 130, but can someone just check me on that? 125. So 125.66. Okay. Centimeters squared. Now, we want half the cylinder. So what do we need to do to that number? Divide it by 2, because we've only got half the cylinder there. So now we need to divide by 2, which is going to get me to 62.83. 62.83 centimeters squared. So we've now figured out half the surface area of the cylinder. There's also one more face we need to consider. Do you know what it is, Mia?
The left side.
The curve? Not the curve. Ellie, you actually said it. It's this bottom face. Okay? Because usually with a cylinder, you just take the whole thing. But since we've added that where we've cut it in half there, we have to take into account that bottom face as well. So I'll just highlight that in pink here. We need to take into account this bottom face of the cylinder. And how am I going to find the area of that, Tristan? So the area of that pink face, 4 times 8, because that's the length and the width of that rectangle there. So I'll just go here, say area equals 4 times 8, which equals 32. So now we're just going to be adding on 32 onto that half of the cylinder there. So now my total surface area equals 62.83 plus 32, which equals 94.83 centimeters squared. And that's going to be my final answer. I'll just show where I got that there. Okay. Are there any questions?
Sir, no, sir.
Anything else other than Ollie? Alright. For those of you watching at home, I'll put the questions up at the top of this exercise for you guys to do. Otherwise, I'll just start looking at them and having a write on the board.